So my name is Emily Wildhaber, and I'm interviewing Karen, what's your last name?
Karen E. Griffin. So Karen E. Griffin's my name,
Okay.
but I prefer to be called Key.
At the Inglewood Arts Center in Independence, Missouri. This is part of the Midwest Genealogy Center's Community Archiving Day for the Inglewood Theater. And today is May 17th, 2025. Okay, Key, what is your connection to today's events?
My connection to today's event, if I can take you back to 1974. 1974 is when my artistic journey started right here in Independence at Ben Franklin. Every Saturday morning, my mother would put us on the bus. And please take note, my mother was a seamstress and she worked in the garment district in Kansas City. So getting fabric was her way of being creative, her way of just staying true to her art that she was given as a kid, for number one. She made all of our clothing. So there was no place locally in Kansas City to get fabric. So every Saturday morning, we would take the bus because we did not have a car. So every Saturday morning, we would take the bus from 22nd and Prospect, go downtown, wait maybe 30 minutes, 45, give or take, depending on the bus, and take the 24 Independence Avenue bus over here to Ben Franklin. And I knew right off I fell in love with Ben Franklin because I felt at home. It was not that it was a store. It was the community's place to come together and connect. No matter who you are, what you look like, all walks of life were welcome at Ben Franklin. And I remember the lady at the counter. I think she knew my name, but she probably didn't know my name. You know what I'm saying? She knew who I was, but she didn't know my name. I'll put it like that. So, of course, to go downstairs to the fabric department, you had to cross the candy department. And I hated the candy department. I loved it, but I hated it because my mother, just could not afford to buy us candy. Her mission was, I'm going to get fabric. And I didn't like the fabric department. I hated the fabric department. It was boring to me. But I knew when we went past that candy counter, there was those Orange Circus peanuts. I didn't know they were called Orange Circus peanuts. I thought they were just some nasty candy. And when we did get it, I was like, this is nasty. And I think it was like old people candy. That's why I didn't like it too much. So my mother would go to the fabric department, which as soon as you're going down the steps, now take note, these are wooden floors, right? And you go down the steps, and you can hear everybody going up and down the steps. You can hear the footsteps. My mother would go to the right, and I would go to the left. So in the left, that was the arts and craft. And I want to say it had to be at least, as a kid, you got to think everything's a lot when you're a kid, right? In 1974. So I want to say it had to be at least 4 to 5 rows of crafts, stuff that you can make stuff with, right? And I was always so curious, like, what can I do with this? And what can I do with that? And how can I make this? And how can I make that? That was just my curiosity as a child. Because I knew I was an artist at a very young age. I didn't know what kind of artist I wanted to deal in, but I knew I was an artist. And that was from watching my mom. So, like I said, every Saturday morning, Ben Franklin shopping. Now, we'll be in Ben Franklin for 3 or 4 hours. It was never a get and go. That was what not Ben Franklin was, like Wally World and Tarjay is today, right? You go in, you get, you go. But it was like almost like a 4-day shopping spree right there because they had everything you needed. So moving forward, like I said, we would go there and go shopping, and then my mother would be like, okay, well, let's go over to the mall, get a little treat or do something. So we get back on the Independence bus. And you got to take note, I think the bus ran like every hour. It wasn't like it is now, I think, run every 20 or 30 minutes. But I think back then it was like, to me, it felt like it was every hour. I don't want to speak to that. And then we get on the bus and we go to Independence Center. And then you have to take the red route. You had to go up to Independence Square to get on the red route. And from the red route, that's how you went to Independence Mall. And then you'd be at the mall, of course, like for another 2-3 hours and then come back. But I would have to say, moving forward, Ben Franklin, it wasn't just the neighborhood store. It was a community where everybody can come together and know everybody. And I wish I could really reconnect with some of those people that were there at the store. And I have to say, moving forward, 2024, I'm so honored, 2023 is when I had the honor of getting an artist in residency at Inglewood Arts Center. And someone says, hey, I think you should apply. And I'm like, my work is not good enough. I've been told it's not good enough and it's not acceptable. And, It just doesn't fit people's criteria, which, when you hear those things, you accept those things and you put them into your mind. So moving forward, 2024, needless to say, I am the Missouri Arts Council Individual Artist of the Year, representing the state of Missouri and the city of Kansas City. And where my studio is on the 3rd floor, right next to Ben Franklin pretty much. And I'm so honored to be in a spot where it started 50 years ago for me. So I don't want to say the 51, that's a little, but to say that the 50 from 1974 to 2024, you never really look at that to count that when you're going through that process, but now it's an honor for me to count that as 50 years. And to give back into the arts, but to have a place that accepted everyone, and to give back to this community with my storytelling presentations that I do in Inglewood, to the art exhibits, we just host a Ladies Make It in May, and to bring the community back to a location I think is a plus by itself. But I would love to see Ben Franklin come back as a museum. Not as a store, because I don't think it'll make it as a store. You have it's too much competition. But to come back as a store, as a museum, and let that story be retold. But it's a historical site now. I think will bring a lot to this community as well. Yeah.
What would you like to see in that museum specifically?
Everything. Bring back everything. And let the seniors be the one to be there to tell the story. You know what I mean? Let them. And if somebody wants to buy stuff at that candy, bring back. If you bring back anything that's sellable, make it to where it's only the candy and the circus nasty orange peanuts. I'm not saying I'll buy them, but I think that would be a plus. But I would say let the seniors be the one to tell the story. And you know what that does? That'll keep them alive. That'll give them something to do and allow them to be involved back in the community. Because it's nice to hear people say, oh yeah, I grew up at Ben Franklin too. Yeah, so I think that'll be a plus as a museum, not as a store. Because then you got revenue that you have to keep up and turn over. But as a store, as a museum, oh yeah, it'd be a hot commodity. And you pair it with Inglewood Arts. So that's a win-win right there by itself. You can sell it as a whole day pass. Yeah.
Fantastic. Key, you mentioned the Ben Franklin as a hub of the community and kind of all of these people. Do you remember anyone in particular, sort of who you see as some of those key figures?
It would have to be the lady in the craft department was the key figure. Because she never, she would always say, so what are you going to make today? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going to play, just see what it looks like and what it comes out to be. I can't remember if I brought any of my projects back. I probably did. I just don't recall which ones because I was just so excited to be at the store. But I want to say the lady at the counter when you checked out, because you had to bring your fabric back upstairs to check out. But if you did your crafts, well, no, let me go back. No, if you bought your fabric and you bought your crafts, you checked out with the lady downstairs. And there was a lady upstairs to get your household items. You get your wedding stuff there. Wow. When I say they had everything, they had everything. And it was convenient. And it was, you think 1974, it was not as pricey as it is now. So, but yeah, I would have to say the lady coming in, because she greeted everyone, of course, because she knew everybody. She was like security, but she was cute, Between her and the lady downstairs, if I could just reconnect, especially with the lady downstairs, that would just make my day. Yeah, because she was always so curious to know what was I going to make. And I tried to stay out the fabric department. I went in there when I needed to. And the only time I went in there, my mother was like, do you like this fabric for an outfit? And what I'm going to say? Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember any crafts in particular that you did make or anything that you still have maybe?
There's nothing that I still have because I did a lot of drawings. So I still have a lot of my drawings. And I can't remember if we purchased remember the magazine called The Highlights? And I think it's still in existence. I remember my mother buying that magazine there and me doing drawings. I drew the pirate, the turtle, the frog, and the pig. I drew all of them. I was supposed to draw one and meld it off. I think I drew one and melded off. I drew all 5 of them, 4 of them, and melded them off. And they actually came to my house. But I think I only have 4 of them still. Yeah, in my possession. So that's something to hold on. But if anything, it was probably drawings that I remember anything. I don't recall any of the crafts that I was able to take back. So, yeah. Because, as a kid, it's just things. I don't like to call it stuff, but it's just things. And then after a while, you move and you get older. But, yeah, that's pretty interesting that I have that. And I found my grade cards. So sorry about that. Yes, come back. But I was like, oh, my God. But, yeah, I found my grade cards from elementary school.
That's fantastic. Do you have, just kind of as a side note, do you have any memories or any associations with the theater? Were you ever next door in the theater?
See, I don't remember the theater because my mother was on a mission. The mission was to go in Ben Franklin, spend our 4 hours, make our way. I don't even remember Inglewood Arts back then as being a functioning building. I just heard it was a medical building when I came back. But I do not recall. And then you gotta realize I'm on the bus and you're knee high to a grasshopper, right? So all you see is buildings when you ride the bus because you really can see up over that window. But I don't recall anything to the theater at all. It probably was open, but yeah. And then we had to be, it felt like when you're on the bus, there's a time limit. You as a woman, single mother, my father had transitioned. So my mother, with us, and it was like, we're on the bus and we need to be home by a certain time. She had little ones, but yeah, I wish I could have had an opportunity to experience the theater. So I don't know. And I probably went in there and don't remember. And maybe if I go back in, I may be like, oh, yeah, it's like, oh my God, this is where I stood at. Yeah, that's always a plus by itself.
Okay. Okay, you mentioned you wanted to see the store become a theater or become a museum, which would be fantastic. Okay, I think we touched everything on my list. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Anything we haven't touched on?
I will have to say, due to Ben Franklin being my first introduction to art, I'm honored to be the credit visual artist and storytelling that I am today because, sorry, just to know that as a woman of color in today's society, right, there's certain places you're still not accepted, right? And just to know as a kid, that was a place where I could go and I felt safe. I felt like somebody saw me, knew me, appreciated me, believed in me. And that lady who was at the counter, she must have knew that I was an artist. She probably didn't know what level or how I was going to make it. But to be an artist and now to be where I am today, again, as the Missouri Arts Council Individual Artist of the Year, that's a high standard.
And to be able to practice my craft where I grew up as a child means a lot. And hopefully this story will inspire someone else who was at that age that I was, at tender age, between 7 and 13, to explore the art and don't take your artistic ability for granted. Appreciate every stroke, appreciate every piece of fabric, color, just appreciate the whole opportunity to expand and explore art. And if I can leave you with a quote from a woman that I had the honor of inhaling and exhaling her air, who has an artistic voice. And she pretty much handed the torch to me, and I was honored to do that, quote unquote. And the reason why I'm saying this because my ancestors, right? They were artists. My ancestors were storytellers. My ancestors were visual performing and teaching artists. I just so happened to be the one selected to carry the torch on so that the next artist can walk in my footsteps, right? To build that legacy. So quote unquote from the woman, again, who I had the honor of inhaling and exhaling her air. And it took me a long time to understand her quote, and I get it now. I totally get it now. And it states like this: I am the dream and the hope of the slave. This was one of my ancestors' dreams, just to sit in a chair and have a conversation with you, to talk about their childhood. So because they survived is the reason why I'm striving. So I want to say thank you. And I got my certification as a storyteller at the Story Center. So see how it's all just, it's all full circle.
The legacy,
Because I started off as an artist first, and then I'm a storyteller. So my art and storytelling goes together, hand in hand. And I'm honored to portray Ida B. Wells Burnett with the gift of telling her story and the gift of creating art to connect people so they can also hear it, but also see it. So I want to thank you for taking time out to capture the stories that are unfinished and have not quite been told. So thank you.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Thank you.